Good morning, everybody. Mark Gilbert here. Great to be back with you again on the Saturday morning Science of Mind Spirit conversations. We've got hopefully an exciting program for you this morning where we're going to be looking at another one of the little books from Ernest Holmes, part of his Notebooks of Ernest Holmes series. And we're going to dive into some conversation regarding those, the quotes that we've pulled for that from that book for you this morning. But the first thing I want to do is welcome in. We've got a special guest with us this morning, and our special guest is Reverend Barbara Bue. Barbara is a longtime friend of mine. She was the senior minister of Centers for Spiritual Living in Greeley, and then NOCO, Northern Colorado Centers for Spiritual Living. Served in the leadership position with Centers for Spiritual Living, and we've known each other for 20 plus years, so I'm excited to bring Barbara into the program. So Barbara, welcome.
Hey, Mark. It's so fun to be here with you. I'm
excited
it's about
fun.
This.
It's fun to have you. Normally I'm on here and working with the people who are watching live and interacting with them, but it's going to be fun to have some interactions with you. And I will say for those of you who are interacting with us live, I would invite you to drop your name and location into the comment field. Let us know where you're watching from and what your name is. And we'd love to see just who all is with us today. And we also want to bring you into the conversation. So as we move along through this morning's presentation, and Barbara and I talking about various quotes from Ernest Holmes and what they mean to us, we'd like to hear from you as well, what these quotes mean to you. So this is for your edification as you hear what we're talking about in regards to them, but we also want to honor the fact that you have your own thoughts and wisdom flowing through you in regards to the quotes, and we want you to be sure that if you're watching live, to be sure and drop a comment in the comment field, however you're watching it, via YouTube or Facebook, etc. And I'll be monitoring those and bringing them in, and we can react to your comments as well. So, Barb, how are you doing today? Everything going well?
Yeah, it's lovely. Finally fall, right? Or something. I don't know. It's starting to be winter around here. All the leaves are falling off finally, and I don't want to say finally because it'd be good for me if they stayed all winter, but you know, the leaves are falling off and winter is coming.
Yeah, so, and have you adjusted to the time change yet?
No.
Have you fallen back? No?
No, not at all. Not at all. Every day it's midnight at 9 p.m.
I can relate to that. I was we kid about my dog. My dog is such a dog that's on a time frame, and over the last week we've been trying to wean her to fall back a little bit on the time frame, so when she expects her food in her bowl. But and I'm in my groggy state as well a lot of times as well. In any case, glad that you're joining us today. And again, if you're watching live, as it says on the screen, be sure to drop your name and location into the comment field. I'd love to see where you're calling from. And Rocky Mountain Holistic Health, good morning to you. Glad to have you. Now, I know your name is not Rocky Mountain Holistic Health, so if you also want to share your name in that, be sure to drop that note into as well. And let's see, New Thought Media Network, which I think is probably Robert, helping our dogs to adjust is always tougher than adjusting myself. I can so relate to that, although I think the older I get, the tougher it gets for me as well, making that time adjustment. So like I said a moment ago, what we're going to do this morning, and is we're going to be looking at a little book called Gateway to Life. Gateway to Life. And this was published in the 1970s, I believe. If I'd opened the book, I could have gotten the year out of it. But we're going to be pulling some quotes from that little book, and it's part of the Notebook series. And it's Shay. Shay, I thought it was you. And thank you for being with us this morning. And hopefully sound is going well. I think you've been with me the last couple of months where things were going funky. I hope we have worked that out. And Linda tuning in from Woodland Park, Colorado this morning. Thank you, Linda, for joining us. We're happy to have you. And again, encourage anybody who's joining in live to be sure and drop their name and location on the screen. We'll acknowledge you at the appropriate point. And we're also going to dive into the book. Now, for those of you who are longtime watchers of the program, you know that in beginning every January, we take the Science of Mind textbook by Ernest Holmes and go through it chapter by chapter through mid to late summer. And then we use a lot of resources from the Science of Mind archives for the rest of the year. Lots of little known writings of Ernest Holmes. And like I said, last couple of times I've been with you, we've been looking at a little series of books called the Notebooks of Ernest Holmes. They were actually 3 books that that were published after his passing, where they took quotes from him and they called them from the Notebooks of Ernest Holmes. And this is something I'm sort of curious about as a Holmes researcher. Did Holmes really keep notebooks? And the intro to these books say he did, and that when he was giving talks in classes and so forth, sometimes he would talk so extemporaneously and say something of such importance that he would write it down in his notebook after the fact, or take it from the extracts and notes that were made of his talks. And he would kept a little notebook of things that he wanted to keep note of, so he could say them and reference them and use them in future times of conversations. So we are going to be looking at this particular book. There were 3 published after his passing. The first one was called Keys to Wisdom, and you can find it at the Science of Mind archives. It's it's a PDF. And the second one was called New Horizons. And the third one, which we're looking at today, is called Gateway to Life. And this one's not yet available on the website. In fact, we're actually having conversations at the archives about maybe bringing all 3 of the books together and republishing them as a new book and as an archive book. And that's something that we're in the midst of discussing and potentially. So if you got feedback on that, drop a comment on it, and I'll bring it to the team. We're looking at several exciting things to try to bring out to the public to build off the Asilomar book that came out a couple of years ago. We're looking at some published classes that have never been published. We've almost are finished compiling a book of his poetry, a lot of it unpublished, but we have a lot of ideas for things that we can bring out. So if you've got a particular idea that the things that are going well, I just want to comment that Shay is telling me the sound is better, which, Shay, that just warms my heart and makes me feel better. So I'm glad the sound is coming through this morning perfectly. And hopefully the quotes will come through as well. And like I said, we're going to be looking at Gateway to Life. And Barb and I want to be very clear. I've looked at the quotes, but I've not studied them. And Barb has not seen them. So we're going to put her on the times here.
Put me on the hot seat.
Put you on the hot seat and say, what does this mean to you? And as we're giving our thoughts as to what they mean, we want you guys to weigh in as well. So feel free to do that. So here's the first quote that we're going to look at. And Barbara, I'll read it, and then you can weigh in on what you think it is. Meditation is a vehicle for the realization of oneness with our source, the Father. Only as we annihilate that sense of separation, can we merge into perfection as air rushes into a vacuum. Demonstration is no miracle, but it is divine law asserting itself, if not obstructed. Long quote, it'll lie in it. What comes up for you?
Well, first it's the simple things. Like for me, I have to take out the whole father thing and just focus on meditation, realization, oneness. Let go of the sense of separation. And really, meditation's been around for how many hundreds, thousands of years. Quiet contemplation by the stream used to be meditation, is mindfulness and meditation. So what I hear in this is that it allows us a space in our very mostly busy lives to remember who we really are. And it's pretty that simple. We are oneness. And so here we have this opportunity in our time as human beings to remember that and have a place to connect with it in some way, shape, or form. And then demonstration is no miracle, but divine law. You and I could get into the rabbit hole really easily of physics and all that physics is proving now, and watching for years, people actually put these things into practice in their life, and then having results of that where their life is better. And it's not anymore at all about demonstration being about parking places. It's about demonstration being in a space where we remember to live in love I don't even know what to add to that. It's a space where we get to remember to live and love. I was going to say more, but I think that's enough.
I agree with everything you were just saying. And, I always like to remind folks that, we are spiritual beings having a human experience, and that we live in multiple realms. And this is one of the things a lot of times with discussions with people, especially somebody who sees everything as physical matter and doesn't see a non-material realm, that we have to sort of we have to agree to disagree on this particular point, because a lot of our discussion or differences are around that aspect. But it's so easy that our senses are continuously feeding us this physical world experience that we tend to think every day that's all that's real. And so that meditation is a way for us to move away from this experience, this human experience, which is real in its own right as an experience,
yes,
but is not our ultimate truth. And so meditation is the way in which we can move into the silence, move into the knowingness that we exist in realms beyond this realm, that we exist in a mental realm and a spiritual realm. Holmes often writes about it, that there's vibratory levels that we move up and down, and that we can move from a state of being focused on the physical life to moving to our mental and spiritual lives. And it's only in shifting our attention. And the way that we can shift our attention is through silence, meditation, and spiritual practices.
Well,
so
and now physics, the far out of physics is telling us we live in a multiverse. They're actually mathematically seeing that. So these things that have been within our brain and in our soul for a long time are proving themselves out as we learn more and more. It's not like it's new. It's not like it's new. It's that we're understanding it differently, even mathematically. It's like all the things existed, but we just put them together differently.
Yeah.
And okay. Sidebar on this one. I just watched this new show last night called Pluribus. Have you seen it yet?
No, I've read about it. I know what it's about, but go ahead.
Okay, so in this show, I've only watched one episode, and it's fascinating because some weird thing happens, and all of a sudden, everybody on the planet, except for like 11 people, shares the same thoughts. They become we, in a sense that really we're connected in this way, right? And so violence stops, because to harm anyone is to harm everyone and yourself. And I mean, I'm really curious where they go with this, but it's a fascinating idea of putting on television this idea of connection.
Yeah.
With source energy, with each other, with all that is.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. And looks like Shay is watching that show too, and says that it's fascinating. It's one of the things that sometimes we go through. This is my sort of thing. People ask me a lot about the politics and things that are going on in the world right now. And one of the things I like to point out is the fact that sometimes we have to go through the sense of a really egregious experience of separation, so we can be sort of like a pendulum swing and get out to the edges of looking at how different we are, and have that experience and say, no, this is not the truth, so they can swing back. And I think that sometimes I see that same thing with a lot of TV shows. Sometimes it's a lot of violence and negativity and people fighting. And I think a lot of this experiences we're going through is so we can move back to experiences of oneness. And I love it when I see TV shows and things like that sort of remind us of that truth of unity or our interconnectedness, or the human spirit, the human kindness that's within all of us. So, yeah, I get it. Let's move on to another quote and see what it brings up for us. And there's no need to seek unity with God in the universe. We already have it. It's something we must become aware of. I'll go first on this one, because it's really a lot like the other one. The other one was talking about using meditation. But what this one for me says is that there's nothing we have to seek. We're always talking about, well, I'm a spiritual seeker. I'm looking for something. But at a certain point in your seeking, you realize, oh, I'm already it. There's nothing to seek. It's merely pulling away the veil that I've put in my own eyes between the truth that's already there. And so there's no need for us to go seeking unity out there. or with God or the universe, it's already in us. We already are united with it. And I think the meditation experience and other spiritual experiences, and if anybody's ever had any kind of non-dual experience, they get it, that it's like it points them to the realization that everything is connected and united. And it's just something we have to become aware of. It's always already there. Your thoughts?
Well, it's funny, I was actually walking around thinking about what you might toss up here this morning with my coffee, and this thought hit me that here we are living this experience, this thing we call life, this experience, and maybe this is it, and we spend so much time looking for something else that we're missing it.
Yeah.
We spend so much time and energy. I don't know, somebody said recently to me, could we stop healing and have some joy? And I'm like, yes, because we're working so hard at doing it, whatever it is that we're missing it. Completely. Yeah. I don't know, maybe we is not it. Maybe it's just me. Because I've been working really hard for a long time to have it right and have it, and it's just here.
Yeah.
And we're missing it in the looking for it, which is a really interesting conundrum, right? The more we look, the more we're missing it, because we're not watching the trees, and we're not paying attention to our breath, and we're not paying attention to the people we love.
How many times during the day do we go, this is not what, we create in our minds a gap between what we expected or wanted and what we feel like we're experiencing. And we tend to look at that gap. And of course, one of the things Science of Mind and New Thought teaches is the more we focus on is more of what we get. And so as long as we're moving through our day looking, I wanted this, but I only got this, instead of celebrating what I got and getting more of it, I'm focusing on the gap between my expectations and what I sense my experience to be. And we get more of that gap. And the other thought that comes up, I heard somebody talking this week about, with all the political stuff, it was like, why do the billionaires need more money? Why does a person when does a person get enough money? And there's these people that we see that are held up as this, the financial wizards of the world who have so much money, but they seem to be so motivated by having more money. And you got to think, they're attracting more money into their life, but they're not getting happiness. It's like there's never satisfied. And there was one of the billionaires that I remember this was being quoted about, was that he was saying, well, why do I have to have more money? Because they were saying he could probably, compete with these other people like Elon Musk and others who are, trying to be the most richest person on the planet. He says, well, why do I need to do that? I've got enough. He was like more about philanthropy and giving his money away and creating a better world than accumulating wealth. And that's
such a right now, those things seem so big, right? The difference between this person and this person. And I was I can get caught up in it really easily. And then I sit back and wonder, what is this teaching us? And what is this showing us about, I could be a trillionaire and be a jerk. Right. Or I can be happy and content and be a nice person. And maybe I could be a trillionaire and be a nice person, but it's not my focus.
Right.
If it was my focus, a few of us would be able to create that, not everybody. But I do think that all of these things are showing up so that we can have a different conversation at some point about what we want and not what we don't want. And
right.
It's like this whole thing with the, not to get too far into it, the SNAP benefit stuff and things like that. It's like, okay, could we go upstream from that and figure out why so many people need food support? And fix that.
Yeah.
Let's fix that.
Yeah. You're
not at their expense and not by taking it away from them, but by figuring it out and solving the playing field in some way.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. It does. And, the one thought I'll throw in, and then we're going to bring some comments in, is that I often look at it that, spirit is expressing and experiencing itself through us and through our lives. Mm-hmm. And so, we often use the phrase, unity doesn't mean uniformity. We don't all have to have the same experience. We come onto the planet with wanting different desires and needs. We have different impetuses within us, different creative expressions of things we want to create and do with our lives. And so if we're really truly in alignment with what our life purpose is, or the goal for our life, we're trying to bring the highest level of multiplicity into the planet for experiences. And there's always going to be the outliers on the very edges of stuff. And so when I look at this, yes, most people, they're just they're looking for their own unique variety in the life. And sometimes we have these things that get held up as examples to us. They're not necessarily, and we look at them and go, well, why do they want that? But that's also spirit moving through that experience. And I have to also remember that, and not let my judgment cloud it into saying, well, they should give their money away and, help the poor, et cetera. But let's bring in a couple of comments too, because we got some, Linda says we must be open to the feeling of unity rather than just thinking about it. Yeah, and I think that we're getting back to the quote there. Yeah, yes. And that is so true, Linda, that we don't have to seek it, but we got to be open to that feeling. Here's another comment, Shay. How does this apply to prosperity? I've prayed for prosperity and received some, and I'm moving forward. However, there's a lot of grief involved in letting go of the old to receive the new.
Mm-hmm. Well, that is loaded.
Yeah. So how does it apply to prosperity?
Well, so that's such an interesting question these days because, I have been a huge proponent and teacher of prosperity over the years, and I've really had to balance that out in the last few years with greater knowledge of inequality and how it plays out. Particularly, I'm talking about the United States, not the rest of the world, because the more I travel, the more I see other people have a better balance of life. So I think that first of all, there is an alignment with an idea of prosperity that is not about money. It is about well-being. And it shows up everywhere then, including in our money. And when we stay focused on that and not in what we don't have, that gap that you were just talking about, and it's hard because our brains automatically default for some reason to the not. But here we are, do I have enough today to move through my day in a way that is easeful and graceful and kind to others and to myself? And if we can start to appreciate that and those really basic kinds of things, that's what grows our abundance, prosperity consciousness. And then it shows up everywhere, including in our money. Mm-hmm. It was not overnight. I mean, like all the movies about how it happened overnight, that's just not the truth. These things take time, like any other practice. It takes time.
Yeah. Shay's got a follow-up comment here. I really need to buy a new car, and I'm having such a hard time letting go of the old car. It's triggering all kinds of weird, proper grief. I can relate to this. I think part of the spiritual experience to me is nostalgia, and it's a degree of attaching memories to things and moments in my life, and I can have a hard time of letting go of things that I have an attachment to, that I look back and see and have a lot of my life experiences anchored in that moment, or with that a person, or with, especially, dogs and pets have done this for me as well. But there's also material possessions as well, which, and I get it that sometimes if I want to attract newness, I need to let go of the old. I got to create the space. But at the same time, I've got something in my life that has value and meaning, and I've attached. I will tell you a story. I have a dog, Harmony. I know that Barb knows Harmony. She passed in 2017, Chocolate Lab. I still have her toothbrush in the bathroom. I still have it, and she's and I've had my new dog Penny for what, 8 years now, and I think about every once in a while about throwing away that toothbrush, and I just get nostalgic for that puppy that passed 7 years ago or 8 years ago now. And I feel like I can't let go of the toothbrush, and it's symbolic of the memory. And I think the same thing can occur in our house. We can attach memories and good times and reflections on things that are around us, and feel like we can't let go of them because we have this sense of a memory attached to it, and we think if we're letting go of that, I have to process it. I have to get to a point where I really think, that object is only a reflection of what the memory is. I've always got the memory of Harmony, the dog. It'll always be there, and I know that she is all part of the oneness, and so I have to, but I actually had to let go of Harmony a little bit to attract Penny into my life.
Yeah.
I had to actually move through a stage of grief and letting go that created and I've written and talked about the beautiful synchronicities in my life that led me to having Penny come into my life, but I had to process Harmony first.
Mm-hmm.
So there is a process in us as humans that have to sort of like let go of things before we can really move into accepting the newness that can come into our life.
Well, and I would say the same thing, for a car. Now I have a lot of attachment to my pets and people. I've had less attachment to things, although I do still have my dog's collar. She's been gone for a long time now, right? The car, I guess, how do you, I guess I would ask what I would ask of Shay is, what is it about the car that makes you feel whatever it is you're feeling? Is it that the car's paid for and you feel secure in that? Is it that you did a road trip with somebody and find a way to honor that thing and recognize that so that you can move forward if that's what you really want to do?
What you're making me think of is my wife has a lot of objects that she gets attached to. And we have a process whereby I ask her, can we get rid of that so-and-so that we're not using? And she'll say no. And she'll say no for several years. And then finally she'll say, can you put that out in the garage? And that's the first step in the process. And eventually she'll allow me to put it on Craigslist or take it to, DAV or something. But before we do that, I tell her, it's like I sold the desk that her father had given her. And I said, Mary, the guy's coming to get the desk. And you may want, and she goes out and does sort of a goodbye, letting go ceremony with it. She intentionally blesses and thanks that object for how it served her and the memories that she had with it. So she can have a demarcation in her own consciousness about letting it go and moving to the space of it now going to somebody else's life for them to, enjoy it and live it. And
I'll do that also with some things, and also be grateful that someone else can get better use and not add to the landfill and not add to the thing, like, and maybe it's donate the car to NPR. Maybe it's, there's all kinds of ways that we can go, okay, how could this really serve whatever it is my heart wants to serve as I let it go.
She says, I love that car. It's my dream car, and I've had it for 14 years. I just kind of old-fashioned attached to it. It's triggering grief about having to let go of things I don't want to.
Maybe there's something more behind that, is what I would say right now, is like, what's the grief really behind that? And I don't want to turn this into a personal counseling session, but
but it is a normal experience, and I think that's something we could acknowledge.
Yeah. There's grief behind the grief. And so just give yourself a big hug, Shay, and allow yourself to feel whatever it is that you're feeling. And because that's the only way to move through it, is to feel it.
Yeah. She's following up with knowing that it has to do with her family. So we'll continue to process it. All right, let's go to another quote here. We do not have to save the world. The world's not lost, just confused. We do not have to bring something back to God which never left him. When we get rid of everything which contradicts reality, our world will be saved.
Well, this kind of brings back the global heart vision, the old global heart vision to me. We see a world free of discord, disenfranchisement, and full of equality and all those things. And the world is really confused right now. Won't save the world. It's just confused. I would say that is really true, but I also believe that sometimes things have to come all the way apart before we can put them back together in a way that's more in alignment with what we want and who we are now, instead of putting a patch on what was. So, when we get rid of everything which contradicts reality, our world will be saved. So what do we call reality? What do you call reality? Mark.
Oh, reality. Well, knowing and studying Holmes, because he's used a capital R in the word reality there.
Yeah.
I would tend to put that up into the spiritual realm, and I think for Holmes, reality would reflect a sense that, again, back to the point that we're spiritual beings at our heart, having a human experience. We're moving through this physical life, and we look at this world out here, this physical world, and we think, oh, the world needs saving. The world is it's lost. Things are going to hell in a handbasket. And what we have to do is anchor back into God, anchor back into spirit. And when we do that, we will get rid of anything that contradicts reality, because I know that our reality is that everything is one, that we are expressions of the one going through a human experience, that sometimes the human experiences wax and wane between positive and negative experiences, that we sometimes have the grief moments so that we can have the contrast to experience the happiness moments. But ultimately, they come together in a oneness of a tapestry of human emotion that's all a gift to us. And so even though we tend to want to have the happy experiences and not have the grief experiences, when we look at it from a higher level, we start recognizing the fact that these are all experiences and gifts that we're going through as part of this human expression of who we are. So when we really can step behind the stories we tell ourselves, and that this is good and this is bad and so forth, then we get and come back to the divine, come back to God or spirit, and see the unity of all it is. Then we recognize that all this thing that's playing out in one side or the other is all part of an ultimate reality of greatness, that we're moving through an experience to return to home of remembering the truth of who we are. What about you, Barb? Anything more?
So, you and I were talking about this. I told you about this several times. I've kind of stopped using the word God again, because I think it still brings for people like this external force, and the force is internal and external. The force is everywhere present, right? It is not located in a being in any way, shape, or form, so, in my view. So you cannot not have the force, and so that it never left. Yes, this is always here, but if the force is a force for good and a force for love, and it can be, if it's how we use it, right? So if the predominant desire is a force for love, and as we continue to seed that field, that will bring the less confusion to the world, and we will make decisions based on what expresses the most love for everyone, not for one group of people, not for one country, not for one, and that is what will bring about a saving of the world and the planet and all the things that need some uplifting and some care.
It's like a pendulum swinging. We have to sometimes swing into the negative and the divisiveness and the sense of separation. We have to go to the nth degree in separation and selfishness to recognize our unity and to swing back into that, is what I'm hearing in what you're describing.
Yes.
And it's a process that we're continuously moving through, and hopefully we're growing through the process. Hopefully we're remembering more and more the truth of our unity, the more that we swing out into divisiveness. And so the things that we can look out, the political environment on our planet right now, not to get into it, specifically, but we can look at that and say, well, this is something that we're moving through, that is an experience that is bringing us back to unity, bringing us back to, the reality of who we are.
And bringing us back to a place of, are we going to be, I think there's choice in here. Are we going to be who I believe we really are, which is beings of love and compassion and empathy and sharing, or are we going to be this other thing that we can choose, but that doesn't really make anybody happy? I don't think. I don't know anybody that is hoarding resources that's happy. Right. I don't know anybody who's not wanting to feed people that's happy. Sharing is happy.
Yeah, Linda writes to us that our country feels chaotic right now. Most of the time it's challenging for me to feel and align with God qualities such as joy and love in the chaos.
And Linda, I would say that's true for so many of us. Like I told Mark recently, you know, I've caught myself reading the comments on news articles, and one should never read the comments. Like I've had to really turn myself off of that because I start to feel like everyone in the world is a horrible person, and mostly it's a bunch of bots, you know. And so I think it is challenging, and want to acknowledge that. And I think it's really beautiful that you're facing the challenge and doing it anyway. And that's, I think, what we all have to do at some level is look at the challenge and do it anyway. Find the love, find the joy, do what it does, do what we can do to bring about the world that we want to see around us. Because I don't know, I for one could very easily cocoon in my condo and go, never mind, I'm just gonna sit here and read my books. Eat toast and read my books.
You know, I think so many people can relate to that, because it's like if you're spiritually attuned and you look at what's going on, you're thinking, well, if you're not spiritually attuned, it's easy to delve into that and get immersed in it and to feel the negativity and stay in it and swim in it and just feel like, you know, the world's going to hell in a handbasket kind of thing.
Yeah.
But if you stay spiritually anchored, then you can sort of look through it and say, this is something we're moving through. It's an experience that we're having, and this too will pass. This too will pass. But the more you immerse yourself into it, the more you can come back to that. So that's why sometimes I think our spiritual teaching really is a way to anchor ourselves into the unity consciousness of life, and see that this is a natural progression of moving up the spiral of life. And sometimes we wax and wane, you know, and we, you know, no matter how far the pendulum swings out into negativity, you know, we can hold the truth that it's going to swing back. I know somebody, you know, asked me recently, are you optimistic? And I say, I'm optimistic in the long run, you know. I'm pessimistic
I'm a little
sometimes
nervous
in the
about the
short
short
run.
run sometimes, and I find myself spinning about that a bit. But I also know that, you know, if you study the algorithms and you study the news feeds and you look at how information is being presented, you know, there are people who I don't agree with politically, whatever, who are not seeing anything I'm reading, you know, are not reading anything I'm reading because
Right.
it doesn't show up in their newsfeed. I also know that we have to look for the good,
Right.
you know, because what gets our adrenaline going is things that aren't good. And so that's what's in front of us all the time. And lately, like, you know, there are so many people doing what they can to help. And so I feel it incumbent upon me to help those helpers. You know, we have a local butcher who's giving away a lot of food to people who need it. So I'm going to, even though it's going to cost me a little bit more to buy from him, I'm going to go buy from him from now on. I could buy for a lot less from King Supers, not a lot less, but less from King Supers. But you know what? He supports local farmers. Now he's giving away food to people who need it in our community. We have to help those people that we have to help the helpers too, and be a part of that energetic system of doing more good.
Yeah.
And
There
so,
is a Food Bank of the Rockies gives away food 2 times a month right behind. There's by our backyard, a backyard of another house, and then a church parking lot, and we can see it from our backyard, our back porch. And I every other Wednesday, every 2 Wednesdays a month, they give out food over there. And there's usually a line waiting for them to open, and the line is gone within a few minutes after they open up, and then it's people through the morning. The other morning, it was so backed up that when I left at 10 o'clock, and they normally are gone, there was a longest line I'd ever seen, and that was an hour after they had been opened. And when I came back about 45 minutes later, there was still a long line down there. And so I look at that and I say, okay, this is a call to action. It's a call to, you know, to say, what can we do, you know, on the planet? And my kids and I have been having this conversation, and we're all, you know, stepping up, and everybody's trying to do things in their own way, buying and giving away gift cards, supporting charities and things of that nature. So we can look out at the worldly events and say, what's going on and what's mine to do and be in this moment to assist. Because if we're all one and are all united, then we want to support each other, you know, in this process.
and when we participate, speaking of prosperity, the thing is when we participate in that circle, the circle always returns, right? And it's, I say to people all the time, the universe always requires us to go first. The phrase is not receive and give, it's give and receive. It's love and be loved. It is
Mhm.
always us stepping out first in those things, and to look at where we might have that impact and what we might do, and maybe not mindlessly spend, but to spend with intention. And you know oh, Linda, put Linda's quote up there. Recently, I regularly start the day with this affirmation: life is good and I love living it. It's a good reminder for me. That's beautiful. That
Yeah.
and and yeah, and all day, every day, right? Just, it's the mantra.
Yeah, it's one of those things where we can look and sometimes get into comparison mode about I've got more, I've got less, I've got this, you've got that, I'm left, you're right, etc. And what we need to do is look beyond our labels and divisions and see the unity and that our life is good. You know,
Mm-hmm.
there's a wide variety of expressions of the divine on the planet, and you know, money and riches are only one way in which we can have expression of the divine. And it's, look for the goodness in your life and the happiness in your life. Let's look at one more quote in our waning moments here on the program. Uh, we only got to a handful of the ones I pulled, by the way. And all of these, again, are from Gateway to Life, a little book that was published after Ernest Holmes' passing, where they were collected from his talks in his last years, were a three little series that were New Horizons, Keys to Wisdom, and Pathway to Life, and just all quotes from his talks that he wanted to save and reference. No two people live in the same room. Each to himself has the reality of the world he experiences. Each lives in a world of his own creating. Again, no two people live in the same room. Each to himself has the reality of the world he experiences. Each lives in a world of his own creating. And to a degree, this is sort of what we were just talking about, the fact that, we can look at it, rich or poor, we're all going through an experience. And we tend to make these labels and judgments upon people's life. Oh, they got a better life, you got a worse life, and we tend to make comparisons and define our lives in comparison mode with other people. Yet what we have to do is step out of that and say, that's the experience going through, that spirit is going through as them. If we're all one and everybody is spirit or God, we're all individual expressions of that one, then we look at somebody else and can bless the life that they're having and feel good for them if we see and judge their life to be good. We can also see people making wrong choices and bless them and recognize they're going through a learning experience towards those individual choices. And each has the reality of the world they're experiencing in their own world. And we all are creating our own worlds in our own way. And so the question then becomes, what kind of world do we want to create? Do we want to create a world of love, joy, peace, harmony, prosperity? Is it to hoard stuff and be a wealthy person? Or is it to be sharing and loving and caring and have other people that care about you?
Right. I don't even know what I could add to that. One of the interesting things about this show, Pluribus, is, and I'm waiting to see what they do with this, is that because everyone becomes instantly connected, everyone knows how to do everything that everyone else could do. So everyone can fly the plane. Everyone can drill the hole. Everyone can fix the refrigerator. So there is a loss of unique skill, or and I'm really curious to see where they go with that. And I think that is a really interesting way to look at how the universe has been created, in this place of, we're all having these experiences so that the one has this experience, because none of us are alike in that way, and we all are driven by different things and creating different things. But we all, I think, I don't know anybody that doesn't want a life with more love.
Yeah.
And if we come back to that, uh, it, everybody wants a life with more love. And so how do we create more of that in the world? How do we bring more of that into the world? And how do we turn away from our device for a minute when at the store, or whatever it is that's ours to do, right? That we answer that. And I'm talking to myself here. How do we answer that call within ourselves, instead of shying away from it, or deciding that whatever our voice is, that it isn't enough, or it can't be lent to it? Because we're all there, we can all
Yeah.
do it. We can all
Yeah.
bring more love.
Yeah, there's that old saying, I forget who it was, that when you get to the end of your life, you didn't know anybody who wanted to spend more time trying to make money. It was all about making connections and love and friends.
Yeah.
When you get to life, you realize sometimes you're chasing the wrong stuff. That what's really important is love and friendship and connections.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Amen to that.
Well, anyway, thank you, Shay, for saying
Thank
it was
you.
a good show and very philosophical. we
You
hope
should hear the rabbit holes at our lunches.
Yeah, Barb and I've known each other for like I said at the outset, over 20 years now, and we get together periodically and love talking about this kind of stuff. And so we didn't get to all of the quotes, but I just got to say I'm happy that the sound worked after the last two expressions, Shay. The last couple of times that I would hear feedback, so I'm going to celebrate today with finally getting the technical glitches worked out with the StreamYard program. But I want to thank Barb for joining in today in the conversation.
It was fun. Thank you.
Yeah, it was great having you. And just a few quick reminders as I multitask here on my screen. But I want to remind you that if you like and want to visit my website, it's consciousbridge.com, where you can see my videos and blogs and so forth. We, as always, want to encourage you to support and check out the resources of the Science of Mind archives at scienceofmindarchives.com. And then also, if you enjoy the programming here you find on the New Thought Media Network, to be sure and go to their website and make a donation to the network. And we want to thank you for
spreading more good, right?
Yeah. And thanks for all the comments today. And join us every Saturday here, where another speaker in our rotating list of speakers leads you through a conversation around some sort of document or aspect relative to the science of mind. And so, Barb, any closing comments from you you'd like to make?
No, I appreciate the opportunity to play and to be in this discussion. Thank you to those of you who are online participating. And, it's good food for thought. Good food for thought.
Okay. Well, thanks, everybody. And we'll see you next time, and enjoy your Saturday. Take care.